Hello everybody and welcome back to Fintech Week London. We're here at day 2. My name is Tyler, I'm a journalist at the Fintech Times, and right now I'm very, very pleased to be saying that I am joined by Silvia from FIS. Silvia, how are you?
I'm wonderful, and so nice to be back and talking to you again. We were just talking about that when we spoke. It was in March, and it doesn't feel so long ago. And it's another beautiful day in London. How come, right?
It's fantastic, isn't it? We spoke at Money Live for our viewers who are interested. We had a very, very good conversation then, and I thought, why not have an update? It's about time we had an update.
Absolutely.
So very excited to be talking to you today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Shall I introduce myself?
Well, yes, some of our viewers may not know exactly who you are. So let's talk about who you are and where you've come from today.
Yeah, so my name is Silvia Mensdorff. I am SVP and Head of Banking Solutions Europe at FIS. And FIS is a global fintech. We are the #1 merchant acquirer globally through WorldPay by FIS. We provide solutions in the capital market space, both buy and sell side, and then we provide solutions in the banking and payment space, card issuing, cross-border payments, faster payments, and obviously core banking, and that's what we're well known for. So.
Well, FIS is everywhere. They're doing everything these days, and you're really at the forefront of fintech. Now, to go on to our interview questions, I found it really interesting because you were recently featured on the American Bankers Women in Payments list, which I thought was an amazing achievement. Silvia, you've had such a decorated career and you have such depth to your career, as is reflected in your knowledge of the industry.
You're making me blush.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop. But what I was really interested in is that your career is at such a high in an industry that is very typically dominated by men. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering, over the span of your career, how have you seen gender equality change or evolve in the industry, and do you think there's more we could be doing to combat it?
Yeah. So I've been in the industry since 2000 actually, and I would say the industry's changed completely. When I first joined, I tended to be the only woman in the room, whether that was sometimes at conferences, most conferences were like 10% women, 90% men. It was really strange. But that's changed. So, like even coming here, my first conversation was with 3 women that were having, we're doing great things. One of the women is leading her own fintech. So, like even 5 years ago, that wouldn't have happened this way. And so it's changed dramatically. And I think that's fantastic because now women have role models as they come into the industry. And so, for example, at FIS, Stephanie Ferris is now the president of FIS globally. She basically runs the business, and it's fantastic to have her provide that diversity and that viewpoint. And I think when you think about financial technology and the financial services industry, women make a lot of the financial decisions in families, and so it's really, really important to provide that viewpoint into the industry. And I believe an industry that is diverse, not just based on gender, but based on sexual orientation, based on your cultural background, your ethnic background. It just provides much deeper insights and helps us build better solutions.
You describe such an optimistic evolution of the industry, and something that's really been a long time in the making. As somebody who is in such a position as yourself, what advice would you give to women who are maybe on the fence about joining the industry?
Yeah. So there are really 2 things. So before I go to the advice, one thing that I want to add is the industry is not there yet, right? So I'm really optimistic about it. But the percentage of female participation, but also of diversity of the industry, is still very much white male dominated, right? So there's a lot that the industry is doing at the moment. I'm also on the advisory board of the Payments Association, and we're currently looking at the diversity in the industry and what advice we can give. And so one of the things that I think the industry really needs to stand up for is a lot more equality when it comes to leave, maternity leave and paternity leave. I think a big difference in this, it's not just this industry, but a lot of industries, when you look at career development and also pay inequality, there's a lot of that is driven by the tax that women pay when they have children. Now, as a society, we need children. And so I think that if, as governments think about equality and that, then I think we as an industry should champion and campaign for more equality when it comes to parental leave and kind of evening the burden out there, and also giving fathers the opportunity to have the same participation into that. So I think that's going to make a big difference. But then coming back to your question about, what advice would I give women who want to join the industry? I've joined this industry, and my background isn't in finance. I did an MBA, but I'm originally an organic chemist, and I kind of stumbled into this industry and started loving it. And the reason I love it is because I believe that financial technology can really make a difference to our to everyday life. So it touches your everyday life. You're always involved in it. It makes a difference to communities, and it provides a lot more access to money. And it's a great industry to be part of. You can really make a difference. It's it's technology put into life. It's not something. It's something that everyday people interact with, and so it's really exciting. And now there are lots of role models out there. Look at the European Central Bank being led by a woman, for example, as well. So no reason not to be part of this fantastic industry.
Well, you don't choose fintech. Fintech chooses you. I fell into the industry as well, so I think it's
it kind of is like it grabs you, doesn't let go.
It doesn't let go. No, it's you just. You have to accept your fate, really. Well, keeping on that topic of fintech, we're at the event, the Fintech Week London, and the theme of the event this year is fintech coming of age. Has fintech come of age? What does that mean to you?
I find it always a bit funny because some people think of fintech as something new, right? And I think it's it's kind of like buy now, pay later. Is being touted as something new, but it was there already. It's just been packaged up differently. I think fintech is digitalization of financial technology. Financial technology has been around for quite a long time. And when you think about FIS, we've been around for almost 50 years. And a lot of changes in technology, a lot of digitalization, a lot of drive for innovation. And is fintech coming of age in kind of this, what I would say, the last 10 years of kind of this new era of digitalization and fintech? Yes, maybe. I think driven by everybody talks about this, the pandemic and the drive of digitalization, and actually us realizing how important that digitalization is and the contribution that we can give. But I think the other factor that is driving fintech coming of age is that with the change in the economic climate, with kind of money becoming expensive, it's now not just growth at any price. It needs to be growth at a sustainable price. So that basically means that every fintech needs to look at themselves and kind of go, is the business model that I'm providing, is it financially viable? And that automatically means, you're no longer dabbling, you're coming of age. You have to justify the investments that are being made and make sure that what is happening is contributing in that way. So it's a really interesting time to be part of this great.
It's almost like an open-ended question, really, isn't it? It's like anything could happen, but you've really hit the nail on the head when you emphasised, that people have to act responsibly and sustainably as well, because it's no longer a choice; it's a necessity in the industry.
Absolutely, so. And I think that's a lot of the talk that's going on at the moment in events. But it gives great opportunity, and anything I can say of the last 22 years, you kind of every time you kind of think, oh, maybe we're done, but then there's always some new technology, some new standards, some new way of collaborating, and so it's just keeps evolving. It's a great ecosystem.
It's always pulling a new surprise out of the sleeve, isn't it? I think FinTech, it's always, and it goes back to what you were saying. It's different, and it's always changing. That's what keeps it interesting. When I asked you what would you say to women in FinTech, is because it's always something to know and always something to find out. It's very interesting, isn't it? Moving on with our interview, when you look at innovation in the industry, and as we discussed with sustainable innovation becoming a larger trend these days, how would you see the relationship between payments and core banking models in driving innovation?
That's a really interesting one. So I think there is a huge amount of innovation coming in the combination between instant payments, core banking, and open banking. Because when you put those things together, you can really come up with great new customer journeys and build a lot of additional value on top of that combination. And so I think core banking obviously provides the ledger, the information on the balance. It enables you also to kind of understand and link into a bank and use that bank's KYC, for example. And when you combine that with open banking, you combine that with payments, I think that's really exciting. So I think that tight coupling will always be there. And when you look at the opportunity that is out there in changing the way we pay, we've only scratched the beginning of it. I would, though, say that comes with a warning note, because as payment experts, we kind of forget that sometimes we keep adding complexity into the system. And when you now look at all the options that are out there that allow consumers to pay, for example, then we need to watch out that consumers understand how those payments work and how they link back and the risks that are associated with that. So that's one thing. As we add complexity into this, let's make sure that we're simple. And then there is additional massive opportunity in the B2B space in offering additional capabilities to corporates. Actually, sometimes when you look at the capabilities that consumers have when it comes to digitalization and the ease of some of these things, I think there is a huge opportunity out there to provide more digitally easy ways of paying and combining all of this to corporates. So great opportunity in that space.
Yeah, so again, with the opportunity in FinTech is everywhere, and it's there really is no ceiling to what can be achieved in this industry. It's fascinating. So yeah, but when we look a bit closer at FIS's systems and what it's offering, you have the modern banking platform, which is comprised of, I think, over 60 different components. Very exciting. And although we could spend all day listing all the different components, which ones would you, if I wanted to scale and to do well as a FinTech, which ones would you recommend to me?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on what type of FinTech you are, right? The reason we've built modern banking platform the way we've done it is it's modular and componentized. It runs on the cloud, and it's open, accessible through APIs. You can really build the journey that you want as a FinTech and as a bank, and that's really the flexibility that is needed. So when you look at FIS's pedigree, we originally come from core banking. And we're a global core banking vendor. We've taken all of that knowledge that built up over 50 years and developed this new system that is ready for the 21st century and really bringing that flexibility to core banking, which is, when you look at most core banking systems, that is not what they provide. And I think that's what FinTechs need, a very flexible and easy to use solution, and that is what MVP provides.
Very case by case basis, and almost adhering to calls for more personalization in the services. It's really fascinating. And Silvia, I wish that there was no time, and I wish that we could just talk forever and ever. But again, it's been absolutely fascinating to talk to you, and I'm so happy to see you here at this event.
Thank you so much for having me again, Tyler.
Yes, and we shall see each other maybe in another 3 months we'll do another update.
Next event.
Yeah, fantastic.